Joel Embiid, the guy took a game off. That's less than he has at this point of the season in previous years. But is that still concerning that he looks tired in certain stretches of the game? We'll talk about that and more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Hello, my name is Keith Pompey. I'm the co-host of Locked On 76ers, one of the co-hosts. The other co-host is my man right next to me, John Mitchell, writing extraordinaire, knows everything about the NBA. Brother been doing it for a long time, but he's not old. He's just been doing it for a long time.
I'm well seasoned.
Well seasoned. That's what it is, bro. That's what it is. But you know, Mitch, we were talking about Joel, and you know, we did the lead in with him, and you know, they have a tough slate. Now, when you look at Joel, he's averaging the league, he's leading the league in scoring. He's on pace to get, it's still early, but he's on pace to get his third consecutive scoring title.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he played in what was it, the first 13 games or first 14 games of the season. He hadn't done that before, but he did it this year. However, teams are getting physical with him, and I wrote about that in today's Philadelphia Inquirer, and it went online yesterday. And the reason why they're able to get physical with him because they want to get physical with him because they feel as if A, he doesn't like the contact.
Right.
B is secondly that they feel that right now that's going to wear him down. And then when it's late in the game, during stretches, he's going to be gassed. He's going to be tired.
Yeah.
And, you know, a prime example, when they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers and they got the ball with 13.4 seconds left. He had it set for the last play. He settled for a 20-foot jumper.
Right.
This is the biggest guy in the league, a guy who can drive. But then again, that goes to when you get physical with him, he wears down, right?
Mm-hmm.
That goes to that. Now, again, he's leading the league in scoring. He's played in more games. You know, once he gets his conditioning up, he's going to be a beast. But is that a little bit concerning that he's not in optimal shape at this point of the season?
It's because we know that that's been his MO for so long, to not be in shape at the start of the season. I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm disappointed, and I think he looks like to me, and you see him up close more than anybody, but he looks like to me that he is in better shape than he has been at the start of most seasons, but not significantly so. He looks like, I'm happy that he is in better shape. But with Joel, my problem with him and his conditioning is that he's always, and you point the finger at the Sixers because they've got to do a better job than this. You know, this is their biggest investment in the history of their franchise from a financial standpoint. He has to be it's their job, you know. And I know players, the NBA has become a league where, you know, guys go to white parties, all white parties during the off season. You know, they're hanging out with celebrities and they're all over Instagram. But your job is to you know, when we get to October, is for you to be in prime conditioning, as primed as you can be. So we're not watching you play yourself into shape. And again, Joel on pure talent is going to be better than 99% of the big men in the league. And 98% of the big men in the league just by showing up. But it is a concern of mine to a degree. And again, only because his MO has been, I show up and I play myself in shape. And I do think personally, he looks to be in better shape this year than he has been in years past. But you made a real good point in your piece you wrote today in the Inquirer about how teams know to go at him, to get into his body, to be physical with him early and often. And it kind of bore itself out in the numbers you wrote about in his, you pointed him out from that game against Cleveland, where he had a physical advantage against everybody who was on the court. While those guys, Jared Allen, those guys are pogo sticks. They, they're like they got the body weight of a good free safety in the NBA. Many of them, a strong safety, you give him a few extra pounds, and you want to see Joel. I mean, that's a game you could want back at the end of the year. You got them without Donovan Mitchell. You got them in your building, and you have a chance to force that game from going to overtime if Joel gets to the basket, parks his big behind at the rim, and as opposed to opting for a jumper with time expiring. And if he does that, and I've been begging, this is one thing. And oftentimes I'm begging for Joel. Bruh, get that ball at the rim. Have somebody you shoot at a 90% clip. These guys, because nobody plays at the rim anymore, these guys don't even know how to guard the post in many cases, man. Get the ball at the rim and just do with the gifts that God gave you. Utilize those gifts and either get a high percentage shot, not a lower percentage shot. And if you don't, you go and you shoot 15 to 16 from the line. Sometimes when you get there, sometimes you get streaks of 17, 18 in a row. And let's end the game. And that's a win that you're going to want back at the end of the year.
Yeah. You're right. But why do you think? I mean, in your opinion, like again, what do you think it is? I mean, do you think it's the fatigue, fear of making mistakes? Because sometimes it's easier to hit a jumper than it is to drive the lane and get stripped and lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, but I do think sometimes when you're banging, you're tired. You don't have that effort. But
yeah,
you're banging tired. Now my thing is, a concern is like if this keeps happening, and they've been resting them sometimes, but this playing the entire first quarter might not be the move.
Yeah.
And a lot in the third. You know what I'm saying? It might not be like, I mean, I know you're going to have to get the minutes some way, somehow, but he looks gassed in the first quarter towards the end,
Yeah. And I've never been a proponent of playing unless the guys, you could play a Michael Jordan, you could play if you had to, a LeBron, and smaller guys with smaller body types who that fatigue doesn't settle in. But I've never been a proponent of a big man. Maybe Giannis, because Giannis is always in condition. But let's be very specific. I've never been in favor of Joel play. When there are 2 minutes left in the first quarter, I think he should be off the floor. I think you should. I think somehow you should find minutes for even if, particularly if you're in control. I put Mo Bamba out there. I know that's a reach. And those minutes belong to Paul. To B-ball Paul. I know those minutes belong to him. But this is preparing for the long haul. You got to get these guys whatever psychological boost they may need. You've got to do that and infuse that in them. So, but with Joel, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, is this who he is with the with the jumpers from the perimeter, because when you and I were discussing offline, Joel, he may have taken that shot in the May playoff game. When the better option at that point, and this is one thing I am critical of him. When I see this guy, having covered the league since 1998, he's a guy, who's from a talent standpoint, having watched, I've never seen a big man with his skills. But sometimes I question Joel's ticker. Sometimes I wonder, I look at him and I'm like, you know what? Are you going to opt to take that shot when we need you at the rim? And more often than not, he played Joel. This is my biggest knock on Joel. And I've heard in many different venues and from different people, Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, and he sometimes Shaquille. Sometimes you got to play at the rim. When you are that guy, you can control the pace and the tempos of games because you're the best free throw shooter on the floor. You're the most difficult guy to defend at the rim. Sometimes you got to get those automatic buckets. When the fact that Joel can hit that fadeaway 15 to 20 footer is a thing of beauty. But man, there are sometimes when you got to be the hammer and the nail. And during his career, and because he has so much talent, you give him this pass. I know I give him this pass, but he is at the point in his career now, this season, and where people I mean, a lot of the fan base is tired of it. I know you hear people say that they're tired. They want to see Joel in crunch time. They want to see the big boy bumping and grinding. That's what people want to see. They want to see him at the rim. They want to see the modern day centers trying to drape themselves around him to no avail. And Joel making the and one, Joel putting the ball at the rim. And, I've even heard him. There was a long piece that was done on Joel. I forget. It might have been an I Am Athlete. It was somewhere. And he was saying that, the old heads have to accept that the game has changed, but winning is winning. And if you're not winning with your formula, you have to accept that your formula might not be the answer. So that's where I am with Joel. I love his game. It's a treat to watch that young man play basketball with all those skills. But whether it's his conditioning, whatever it is, whether it's something in the ticker, whatever it is, I like to see him be more aggressive at the rim late in games, early season, late season, in shape, out of shape.
Yeah. I think part of the thing is with Joel is, we look at him as 7'1". He's listed at 280, but he's actually more than 280. He's just listed at 280. Right. So we look at him as, he should be the second coming of a Shaq, right?
That's never gonna happen.
It's not. He's more of a finesse. Like people, you go there after practice and you'll see Joel hitting all these jumpers, doing like step backs, doing all this other stuff, hitting threes, doing all types of things. And, initially you'll say, yo, where the post up moves? Like, well, where's this? Where's that? Yeah. But then you realize that's just him.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why when he gets introduced, they don't introduce him at 7'1". They say 7 foot, or, he's actually 7'2", I believe. They don't introduce him as that, because if you do that, then people are going to be like, hey, look how big he is. Why isn't he down low? But he's a finesse. He's more of a finesse player. Now, can he get there and dominate? Yes, he can. But, he looks at himself as more of a, like sometimes he say Kobe guard, this and that. That's what he looks at himself as a guy who can make shots. And he can make those shots, but he's just so big. And sometimes we see it, and especially traditionalists, they look at it and they say, boy, you were better off getting on a block. But
get on the block, bro.
Yeah, but the game has changed too.
So
that's the hard part.
But Joe Keith, and I know we got to go, but when you have a weapon that nobody else is prepared to defend,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't utilize it because of something in the player's head or something in
Yeah.
the player's heart, that's to the detriment of your team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 That's a deep one. This is something we could talk about forever,
Mm-hmm.
ever and ever and ever. But I want to talk about game time right now. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Last minute tickets, fast deal, zone deal, easy to find and buying tickets for every kind of event in your area. That's what Game Time does, right? So how do you get the Game Time tickets, right? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You can again create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, my man Mitch, there was a lot of insightful stuff that you said about Embiid, and a lot of people aren't going to argue with you what you said,
I
and
want them to argue with me. I want the analytics world to say no. He's got to hit
I
the
mean,
rainbow jumper and
yeah, well, the analytics people might argue with you, but I'm talking about like because right now, if this is what teams are saying, and I talk to people from around the league,
right,
these are the things they're saying. They know he's going to get tired.
right.
In the past, they used to run him. Now, again, he is a great player. He is the reigning MVP. He is this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm pretty sure he can tell you he can get in better conditioning too. Because the thing is, when you look at it, and I know he's had injuries and stuff, but when you look at it, Tobias Harris is older than him.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Beverly older than him. There's a lot of guys on the team older than him, but they don't miss games
Right.
as much as he does. Now you can also say an injury history and everything like that. So I get that, but it's one of those things where um I mean, if his condition was a little bit better, that would prevent some of the injuries from happening,
Mm-hmm.
and it would teams wouldn't he would they teams wouldn't have an easy way to make sure that he's fatigued in the fourth quarters.
Right.
And the Boston Celtics used to do that a lot. They used to have him go running up and down, up and
Mm-hmm.
down, and they would hope and pray that he didn't get his teammates involved because they knew when the fourth quarter came, he was going to be tired, they were going to be cold, and they could pull out a close win. I mean,
Right.
and that's what they used to do. But now he's we'll see if he returns for tomorrow's game against OKC. But when I look at this Sixers team, John, I got to ask you this: they started off 8-1,
Mm-hmm.
8-1, and then they went on and lost 4 of the next 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it had to do with um, Kelly Oubre Jr. missing time.
That's a big part.
Yeah, good part. That's a big part. Then Nico Batum
Mm-hmm.
missed some time as well. But it just looks like the great start that they had. Now they're trying to hold on a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
Now they go into OKC, who has the second best record in the West. Then they got the Lakers coming to town, and then they got a 2-game road trip against New Orleans and who was it? New Orleans and Boston, right?
Yeah.
So this isn't exactly a stroll in the park coming up. Like it's not like it's going to be tough for them in all 4 games. I believe. I really do. It's going to be all 4 games. Going to be tough matchups for them.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to constantly, and as we move further away from that 8-game winning streak, we'll say, that was the schedule was friendly. And let's not to denigrate the 76ers. 76ers are playing much better basketball than any of us anticipated they would play. I think they've got a few schedule losses in there. The Minnesota loss is a schedule loss. Um, but I do think you have to show up and you hope that another sore hip doesn't keep Joel out of the lineup, because I think that you can go into Oklahoma City, who's again another surprising young team that people are enjoying watching play and emerge. The Sixers need to go get that game. They need for Joel to go in there against, say, as a slender Chet Holmgren and do what we just spent the last 15 minutes talking about. Play at the rim and ragdoll this guy. This guy's 2 years out of high school, man. And he's got a bright future in front of him. I was watching, at one point when the Jalen Duran or Jalen Duran, whatever the local guys in Detroit, however he pronounces his name, I was watching those guys and I was like, man, they were the two top high schoolers, around that time. But you want to see Joel go in there and then get a win there and then come back here, and you got you got the Lakers, who have been, while they've been good at home, they're not much to speak of on the road. And these are games, you got to stack the wins you can stack early on when they're there to be stacked. So this is a challenging schedule because Boston's, since that loss to the Sixers beat them, and that they've set back with the Timberwolves, Boston has been rolling again. They're getting bodies back. So we early on in that stretch we lauded the team, but now the season's really officially starting. They've gotten out of the glaze of a nice, just everything is new. James Harden is gone. The ball is moving. The ball's not sticking. Now you've got to take what you're doing and improve upon it. You've got to start getting play out of those guys who they acquired. You hope to see Kelly Oubre back in the lineup very soon because he makes a huge difference in what they do.
Yeah, I expect him to return early. Like we talked about, I expect him to be back next week.
Well, that's a good thing because they're gonna need Kelly. They're gonna need him. I mean, he's been one of the more surprising free agents in the league, and it's always going to baffle me as to why that guy was still sitting around. I mean, even with the chatter about he's has an aversion to playing defense. This is a lot of the guys in this league now have an aversion to playing defense. This is an offensive league. So yeah, but like you said, Keith, this is a stretch where they're going to get tested. They're going to get, and it's going to start in. Another player, Gilgeous-Alexander, who doesn't like watching that guy play basketball, man? That guy's first team All-League. He's first team All-League player. So it's here for them.
Yeah, it definitely is here for them. It definitely is, and and the thing about Kelly, I think a lot of it is a lot of people is how it is. There are certain players who have. They have an idea of the role that they want to play, but the team may have a different idea for them. And I feel like a lot of people, like Kelly can score, he could do things, but he wanted to be the man, and he knows. Like, I mean, in the situations where, let's face it, he's a confident player.
Right.
He does have a good skill set. He's a streaky shooter, though. He's a streaky shooter. But at the same time, he looks at it like, you know what, I can do this and I can come out here and score. But in the NBA, you typically have two guys who they want to run their offense through.
Right.
And the dudes, they want them to be a role player for the most part. And I feel like Kelly went certain places and he knew that he could play and he wanted more. And they didn't want it. So they didn't want, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you could say he views himself higher as a player than teams did, what I mean? And I mean, if that's the way that people can understand it, like he just had a higher opinion of his game than executives and coaches did. And so far he's been good, but there is going to be a stretch that he's going to go through some shooting slumps, and he's going to try to shoot for him. That's what he does.
Right.
And those are things that some people are down on, like, why you take that shot when you're struggling, this and that. Well, that's what shooters do. They keep shooting. So, but yeah, so I think that had a lot to do with the reason why the Sixers are the only team that really wanted him, to be honest with you. That's the reason why.
Good for them.
Yeah, good. Sixers worked.
Yeah,
It worked out. It really worked out for the Sixers, and I think it worked out for him.
It will.
I think it will. So yeah, but when we talk about it, like when we talk about the upcoming games, this is going to be a key stretch. In addition to that, it's one of those things where you can look at. We talked about this yesterday. You can look at it two different ways. You can look at it from a standpoint where you say, you know what? Well, we know they're a good team because they destroyed all the bum teams out there. Like they just disposed of them the way you should have. But then there's other people saying, but yeah, they only beat bum teams. Like they're 3-5 against teams with winning records, and even that's an asterisk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see. But I still think we're in a stage of learning how this team is, because before Kelly went out and before Nico Batum missed all that time, they were rolling. They were the most exciting team. So we got to give them some more games back with those two in the mix. And, and Marcus Morris playing better, but the only thing is, the problem is it's going to be tough for Marcus to get minutes for him to thrive like he did the last game, I believe.
Right. But that's good, though. Competition should breed that. And if Marcus is still up for the competition, he's got an opportunity. I mean, because Nick Nurse is like, hey, somebody show me you can do this.
Yeah.
I'm not to say show. And if it's you, if I think you maybe lit a little fire under him when you wrote that, hey, bro, you haven't necessarily shown up since you've been here. And he responded, they had to have him step forward. They needed everybody to step forward against Minnesota, and he did step forward. So,
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I know his people know me. He knows me. So
you guys got a history.
Yeah, we got a history. Yeah, I've never seen him, to be honest with you. I've covered him since high school.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen him play that poorly,
right,
on any level. I mean, I'm gonna be real. Like, I just haven't.
Mm-hmm.
This is new to me. So and I know his people. So it is what it is. But he looked more like himself the last game that he played. But it's something he has to continue with.
Yeah.
But like, I want to talk a little bit more about this upcoming Maxey against elite guards when we get back. But I want to talk about right now. I want to talk about FanDuel, right? A score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Now, Mitch, when we look at the Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid tandem, the top scoring tandem in the league, right? The top scoring tandem in the league. The guys are dominant. Maxey had 50 points. Maxey has scored over 30 points several times this season. Phenomenal.
Yep.
But when we talk about him making the All-Star, he was the favorite, odds-on favorite to get it. But then what happens is he goes up against, and I'm not going to talk about Anthony Edwards, although Anthony Edwards is an All-Star.
Western Conference.
He got outplayed, right? But that's a Western Conference All-Star. So then you look at Trae Young, outplayed. Tyrese Halliburton, outplayed. Darius Garland, outplayed, right? He played again. Now he he came back in the fourth quarter in the second half against Dame Lillard, but Dame Lillard had he was what did he score? I mean, he was killing the Sixers.
Yeah.
My question is he took some tough matchups against some all-star guards, or they had pretty good games against him.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at do you think is a lock for him to make the all-star team, or do you think right about now? I know it's still early, but it's going to be tough because these guys all outplayed him.
Yeah, I think I mean, Tyrese Halliburton's going to outplay a lot of people, when he's on his game. I think the Garland game was a little bit more surprising because it was like, hey, Donovan Mitchell's not on the floor. Not that really impacts what Maxey does offensively, but you don't expect to see. And I'm a Garland fan, but you don't expect to see those guys playing at a similar level. Considering the shot out of the cannon that Rocket, the Maxey experienced early on. So I think he's going to be an all-star. I really do. But you mentioned some players who, obviously Trey is kind of established now. Halliburton is who he is. I mean, he's Mr. Assist now in the NBA. He's like 30 and 15. Seems like every other night you pick up the I wasn't gonna say pick up the newspaper, but and when you log on to Philly.com to the Inquirer.com and read your stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think he's going to. Yeah, I'm a fan with Tyrese doing. I know he's having his shooting woes. We talked about that over the last 5 games or so. I think he's like 37 for 95 and shooting 38% or from field goals over the last 5 games or so. And he had that, against Cleveland, he was just chucking it 11 for 28. But I think that Tyrese is going to be an all-star. Mm-hmm. I think I look at this stretch as a learning period for him. He seems to be a guy like a sponge, man, who soaks up things, who will look at a box score and say, "Damn, I got to do better." And I can't.
Yeah, true.
I think that's the guy who he is. I think he's probably one of his biggest and most harsh critics. So I think Tyrese is going to continue to get better, and he knows that he has the freedom, but he'll look at his freedom and his green light and say, I can't just be a chuck machine here. I have to play smart. I have to protect the ball, which he does very well. I think he's like 6-1 or 7-1 assists to turnovers. So I'm not really worried about him. I do think he's going to be. And then there's also, let's be honest, there's the newness impact in this playing in a large market, which are things that let's be quite honest, people who we both used to have those votes, and I had them for years. Those postseason votes. People are going to look at him, and then again, and the fans are going to look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a hot market. It's always been a hot market, despite the fact that we were in a 40-year drought without a championship. So I think he's going to. I think he'll be an all-star this year. But like you said, in the last 2 weeks, some other guys have really, asserted themselves, at that position that he'll be vying for.
Yeah, a lot of other guys have. I mean, we'll see. It's still early, but it's just something to pinpoint. You know what I mean? Because he was, unstoppable, and now all of a sudden it's kind of like these other guys are like, it's kind of like they're getting up for him, to produce, like they're getting up to play against him.
Right. Yeah, you can no longer hide him.
Yeah.
It's no longer a mystery.
You can no longer hide him. You can no longer hide him. But look, y'all, I want to thank y'all for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, right? But when you go to the YouTube channel, make sure you click on the Liberty Bell. It helps you become a new subscriber. right? And you get notifications when we have our next podcast. So we would like to thank y'all. At least I know I will, and I'm assuming James. They called him James because his last name on John. Y'all couldn't even get it out. I couldn't even get it out. I'm assuming my man John does too. He's not. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Man, we getting up there, man. So I know.
No. I was getting ready to say something that
we've only known each other for more than a decade.
I didn't mean it that way, but we have a good day. Hey, a question before we go. I didn't even see. Did your high school win or lose?
You know what? I haven't even checked. It dawned on me because when I said you had the Oregon shirt on, and I said, oh, I don't have my Overbrook stats from the Turkey Bowl, So I guess my card has been pulled. I'm not the passionate fan that I'm supposed to be.
It's been years, man, and it's I hate to say it, like I don't know. I used to go to the old North Frankfurt games. I graduated from North Catholic, so I used to go there and support. And I probably still would go because the thing is, you got to understand that game is like early in the morning.
Yeah,
9:45. You do that, it becomes a tradition. However, I feel like if I was in the pub and they got 80, man, when you was in the pub, they might have had 20 something schools. Now they got like over 300 of them, and so it's hard to keep up.
Kids,
it's hard to keep up. You know what I mean?
Catching buses to play at other schools, man. It's just different.
Yeah, it's different. It's just different. It's such and such tech or such this or you know what I mean. It's just like, huh? Like I don't know. It's just tough, man. It really is. At least in the Catholic school, it's the same old schools. But y'all got like a small army of squads that no one heard of. So, and I'm sorry if we sound
nostalgic,
but it's different. It's different. It's just different. But yeah, and back in the day, that Overbrook West Philly game, all of West Philly was there. I mean, because look, my mom, my people went to my uncle's old heads before it closed. They went to Tommy Moore, but then they went to West Catholic boys. But if you got kicked out, you had to go to West. You had to go to West Philly. Yeah. Like you wasn't getting kicked out going to Overbrook. So it's because that's where my family from. They're from West Philly, so that game was always a big one. You know what I mean? That was but it's crazy.
It was a great rivalry, man. Even in a football, it was really a basketball rivalry.
Oh, of course.
But if Brook went 1-9 and we beat West, as we did my senior year, we didn't go 1-9 and we beat West.
Y'all went 1-9?
No, we didn't.
You remember y'all record?
We only won about 4 games that year, but we finished strong. I know we won it. I can remember my last career game was at Olney High School.
Oh, okay.
And we walked off the field with a 6-6 tie. In typical public league tradition, nobody could kick the extra point. Back then, I imagine now it's a lot of 2-point conversions going on.
It's really crazy. And it was one of those things only in the pub. Look, man, when I played in North, we were horrible, but we used to beat Frankfurt. But we were horrible. One year, my sophomore year, we played 4 different homecoming games. I was like, yo, it's the 3rd week of the season. They playing homecoming already? And I knew a guy on the team. He's like, yeah, we were playing y'all. I was like, okay. We had to get one. So it was crazy. But look, that's enough about that, y'all. We want to thank y'all for listening and speaking for John. Yeah, he wants to thank y'all too.
I do. Thanks for listening. We really enjoy sharing this time with you all.
Yeah,
and giving you some real 76ers fact from a guy who is actually close to the team and talks to the team, and not a guy who sits off somewhere in the corner and makes stuff up, because there's a lot of that going on in the media these days.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. Unfortunately. We want to thank y'all for having a great one. Peace. And I'm going to have to recover from eating all that bird last night.
Judge, I'm with you on that, Keith.
All right, y'all. Deuces.